So before we begin this webinar, we would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land and pay our respects to elders past and present, and also extend that to any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander people listening today. We acknowledge that this is Aboriginal land, always was, always will be. So my name is Jessica Sullivan and I work in the Disaster Response Legal Service as the Community Education Officer. And I'm joined today by Marta Solofoni and Charlene Naismith from the Legal Aid New South Wales Disaster Response Legal Service. So today we're going to cover briefly just an overview of our service, some information about this new scheme for farmers and small business owners, some of the not so obvious legal issues, which we'll explore with a case study that Charlene's going to talk us through, and then just a bit about the fact that we're not doing this on our own. We're working together with everyone else trying to do the same thing and help people who were affected by bushfires or other disasters. So we'll get started. Marta, if you wanted to talk us through what our service is and what we do.
Sure, thanks, Jess. So just briefly, and some of you may already know, we've been involved in the disaster recovery space for a very long time, well over 10 years now. Obviously, the most recent work that we were involved in was the 2019-2020 bushfires, and as you all know, the scale and the spread of those fires was unprecedented, and so we had to adopt a multi-channel approach in providing assistance. So these are the main ways that we are providing that assistance. So the helpline, which is there on the screen right there. That helpline, anyone can contact us on that helpline. Clients can contact us directly, or if you are working with someone, if you're working with a client, you're also most welcome as a community worker to contact us on that line as well to talk through any of the matters that you are assisting your clients with. The types of assistance we do provide legal advice, mostly on the spot when you're calling through on the helpline. A legal aid solicitor you can be transferred to a legal aid solicitor and we can provide legal advice. We do provide ongoing legal assistance depending on what's involved. Now, that ongoing legal assistance is basically what is covered, the areas of law that legal aid cover under our policies, but we do recognise and acknowledge that those affected in the bushfires are priority clients for us, so we tend to be a little bit more flexible in terms of the assistance that we can provide. As part of the team, we also have a financial counsellor as well. So a financial counsellor can help with the financial matters, particularly focusing around financial hardship that your clients might have. So that is also an additional service that we can provide. Just a quick list there of the sorts of outreach and community legal education that we are running, and still planning for things to come out fairly soon. I think that's about it.
Yep. Well done, well covered. I've just popped on there at the very end there. So because of COVID, obviously things changed and outreach changed, but we're back on the road, as it says. So if you do have community meetings or events coming up, please get in touch with us. We would love to be in attendance and provide assistance where we can. So we will now move on to the kind of legal issues that we do help with. So Marta, again, I'll ask you to kind of talk us through this, and Charlene, jump in at any point as well.
Great. So we, as I said before, we have a fairly flexible approach in terms of what we can assist people with. And this will bring up a list now of what we commonly see. The top two at least are generally the areas of law that we have the highest percentage of inquiries or matters relating to those to that area of law that we assist people with. So insurance claims in particular, and I don't think any one of you will be surprised by that, but insurance claims generally tops the list in the inquiries and assistance that we provide. And then there's a number of other areas that we also provide assistance with. But I think the main message from us is really that if there are any issues, we're always happy to talk with you or with your clients, and we can always work out what assistance they might need and whether there is a legal issue that we can assist with. So these are the common things that we deal with and we often see in disasters. But again, even if it's not on this list, you're most welcome to always call us and we can always workshop it through with you and work out the best way to assist the client.
Yeah. Yeah, so don't think that it just stops with civil law problems. We can also assist, obviously, if there are any family or criminal matters that have come up as well, whether it's us or whether we refer you on to someone else within legal aid or another service. So, and then again, just the main point I think always about this is to deal with legal problems as quickly as you can, because they just seem to get bigger and get worse. So we'll move now, Charlene, and I might get you to talk to this to explain to everyone about the new scheme that we've got, the Bushfire Legal Aid Scheme.
Yep, awesome. So this is a super exciting thing for us to be administering. This is basically money from the Commonwealth Government that applies to primary producers or small businesses who are still experiencing ongoing legal problems as a result of the 2019-2020 season. Under that scheme, people who are eligible, which basically means you are within one of the affected LGAs and you are a primary producer or a small business, and I'll tell you what those definitions are in a minute, that you can get a private lawyer, and it can be one of your choosing, to help you to try and resolve your legal problem as early as possible. So the funding initially is $2,000 for the lawyer to assist, plus up to $5,000 for disbursements, and that applies to one particular legal problem. If this person has multiple legal problems, then they might get an extra grant for that problem through the same lawyer. This is not means tested, which means it doesn't matter if a person has no money or too much money. We don't look at that issue at all. And so, as I said, primary producer or small business, primary producer being a trust or a company or an individual who's carrying on a primary production business, whether it be alone or in partnership with another business. It includes plant or animal cultivation. It includes fishing and or pearling, tree farming and or felling. A small business owner is basically anyone who runs a business with 19 or fewer employees. So the business proprietor doesn't necessarily have to be located in the area, but the business itself needs to be located in the area. Those people will deal with a number of different disputes, or this scheme will deal with a number of different disputes that legal aid doesn't ordinarily or generally ever come across, such as commercial leasing, planning and building, fencing. We do credit and debt and insurance, but we don't do that from a business perspective. So that in that respect, it's outside the scope of what we would normally experience and normally have experience in. So the fantastic thing about it is that it can give money to another local business, being maybe your local private lawyer, to pick up and help you resolve your legal issue. So call that number or email us for more information, but we've also got some attachments in the handouts that explain it. Yep. So you're probably best off just downloading that and having a bit of a read.
Yeah, there's two handouts there. There's one for private lawyers or practitioners, and then there's one also to provide to clients as well. Great, thank you, Charlene. Now we'll move just quickly because I wanted to acknowledge that COVID has made it more difficult, I think, in this space. Some people have felt forgotten, I think, because COVID has taken over a bit and things did change. So as you can see, there was reduced face-to-face services, isolation and mental health issues became a lot more perhaps quicker to the surface than they would have ordinarily, and access to services and things like that changed, as well as clients with additional needs had different needs. So we just wanted to say that there are ways around this now for us that COVID has lifted a little bit. So we are doing face-to-face if required. Phone is obviously preferred, but there are ways around it. And a lot of issues have come up because of COVID and made disaster-related problems even worse. So a lot of tourism industries, for example, were very hardly hit. And then they've also now been closed because of COVID. So it's still disaster related, so we can still help. So give us a call if any of your clients have any of those issues, really. And so just going on from why we need community and health workers to know about this scheme, Marta, do you want to talk a little bit about this?
Sure. I think the main message is just really that your roles as community workers is so crucial in terms of a client or a person's recovery journey. As lawyers, we obviously will help where we can, but I think there's a lot more help that and community workers have great skills and expertise in the areas that they can help people with their recovery journey. We share the same clients. And clients, because you're there on the ground and you're seeing your clients, in most cases, you've developed a relationship of trust with the clients. And I think it really helps clients because when they're dealing with overwhelming things like this, they often experience paralysis, that they just don't know that they can get that there is help out there and know how to go about accessing that help. So I think you all as community workers play such a crucial role in this. And one of the things that a lot of community workers that I know and who I've come across, they're very good at problem spotting. They can spot problems where clients really can't see it. And we mentioned earlier that often things don't seem, or legal issues aren't very obvious. And I guess an example of that would really be around insurance claims. Clients don't see really insurance as a legal problem. One of the challenges for them and why maybe they don't see it as an obvious legal problem is that they don't often think that they can do anything about it. They don't think they can change the outcome of an insurance claim or an insurance decision. And so that's where I think, community workers could really help with this because it is a legal problem. It is something that we can help with. And that's where we need your help to connect those consumers or those clients with our service or with legal assistance. That's only really one example. And I think in the next slide, Jess, you'll mention that we've got some tools that could help you in spotting those problems, those legal issues.
Yeah, people may already be aware of this. It's something that Legal Aid has had as a tool for quite a while, but we're currently in the process of developing a disaster version of this. So it's the Law Checkup tool. It's essentially just a checklist, as you can see an example on the screen there, that you can either just have on your desk as a reminder of things that Legal Aid can assist with and that are legal problems. But it's also something you can either give to your clients to take away with them so that they know about what legal problems are, and also you can work through it with them. So there is another page where you can put down their details and then forward it on to either us or another service, but you get a really good understanding of all of their problems. So a client might say, no, I don't have any legal problems. And you say, okay, well, but how's your employment? And they go, oh yeah, actually I was fired and I did think that was a bit dodgy. And you go, okay, well, that's a legal problem. And anything else? Oh, well, I got my insurance back, but it wasn't enough. And then bill down the road, that kind of stuff. It allows you to pinpoint problems that you may not be aware of that are legal problems and that they definitely aren't aware of. So just stay tuned for that one. It'll be up on our website when it's ready to go.
Yeah, and if I could just also add, I think that was a very big part of our experience, and probably Charlene might agree with me, is that when we're out in the field, we'd often have a conversation about somebody who's trying to help their friend and will tell us about their friend's matters. And in the course of discussion, they'll mention, oh yeah, I had this issue and I had that issue. And then we'll be like, oh, actually, that's a legal problem we can really actually help you with. But lots of people think that somebody else is more deserving of assistance and they don't really see their own legal issues. I think, Charlene, you probably came across quite a few people in that boat.
Absolutely. And I think the message to people is if it doesn't feel right, just because someone's telling you no, that's not the end of it, and you should consider asking.
Definitely. And I think community workers are really good at that. They really can get that sense of something doesn't seem quite right. And if you've got that sense, you probably are right. And we want to talk to you. So that's right. Definitely get in contact.
If it feels unfair, it just might be, and there might be some law that can help. We hope.
That's right.
I've just had a few people send through some questions, which I won't read out because they are about particular clients, but I mean, it's a really good way to use our service, I think. So if you do have particular questions for Marta and Charlene that we can't really talk about right now, just send them through and we can see what we can recommend for you after this webinar. So we're going to move now to our case study. So this is Brenda. And just to give you a little quick overview of her situation. So she's kind of a conglomerate, I guess, of quite a few different client stories so that we can kind of talk you through what services we can provide. So Brenda is 72. She's an aged pensioner. She lost her home on New Year's Eve 2019. Her home was a total loss. She had an insurance policy and received a payout within 2 weeks, but there was no communication to her made by the insurer about how the amounts had been calculated. She was staying in temporary accommodation for 6 days before she moved into a rental close to her original home. A few months later, Brenda received an electricity bill for her property, which included charges for supply and use of electricity after the total loss of her home. During this time, Brenda went through a speed camera. She's stressed, she's got a lot going on, and ended up with a fine that then she forgot about and didn't pay, and that resulted in a suspended license. She also has now decided she doesn't want to go back to the property. She wants to sell it, but her certificate of title and all of her other important documents were destroyed by the fire. So, Charlene, talk us through this. What happened and how did we help?
All right. So, as you said, Brenda's a bit of an amalgam of a few clients, but not that many. So Brenda crosses a couple of these issues, but how we actually helped her was the first issue with being the insurance. So the real story about Brenda is she actually received 5 different cash deposits into her account within about 2 weeks, and she had no idea what they were for. She was never given any communication by the insurer about how those amounts had been calculated. So as a result of that, did not understand whether or not the insurer had met their obligation to her. When she asked them, they kind of made her feel like she was being an inconvenience, and they said, why do you want to know that? Don't you think we've paid you enough? Or we've actually given you more than you're even entitled to. I can't give you a list, but I'll just explain it to you over the phone. Now, that's not good enough because, one, at a time of high trauma and that kind of degree of stress, Brenda wasn't necessarily going to take that information in and be able to retain it. So she also had policy cover for the removal of the debris on her property, but at that time we were still in that phase of not trying to work out what the government was going to pay for. So Brenda was told by insurer that, yes, we'll pay for it, but, we're going to go and get our money back from the government because we've got to get it from somewhere. Very odd commentary to make to a person at a point of high trauma, and not really even legally correct to make those kinds of comments either. So Brenda ultimately felt like she was a burden on her insurer, and she was asking for something that she wasn't entitled to know, or she was making their life difficult when the reality was they needed to be much better at how they dealt with her. So I ended up writing to Brenda's insurer and just told them, this is what's happened, this is what she's told me her experience is. I'm sure you can appreciate that she deserves to have a written breakdown of the information and how her claim has been decided. That their response to her and the way they dealt with her lacked a couple of fundamental things, like lacked respect, sensitivity, dignity, wasn't fair or open or understanding, wasn't clear or transparent, and those are all things that insurers agree to implement as a part of their subscription to a general code of practice, and also under the contract of insurance between the consumer as well. She has rights to know this information. So they wrote back, they apologised for the lack of sensitivity. They gave me a breakdown of how they'd calculated her claim. That then made me realise there were a few things that were missing. And one of those was how they'd paid some temporary accommodation to her. I worked out that there was a gap in the amount, and the percentage she was entitled to wasn't made up in that actual cash that she'd received. It turned out that what they had done is paid a temporary accommodation provider a large sum of money based on her staying for quite a long period of time. She had left much earlier than that, but they had never sought a refund. And when she asked the question of the same worker, why have you paid them, $4,000 more than they should have received? I want you to get a refund because that money should be mine. The person said, oh, it's just too complicated. And that's made her feel like she was asking for more than what she deserved. So as a result of that, I again wrote back and said, thanks for your response, but you've raised another question. Can you please explain why you would not repay that money? She's entitled to it under her contract. the response was to pay her another $3,500, which represented the actual amount she'd missed out on. That was put into her account within a couple of days of me asking for it.
So great.
Yeah. The issue with the electricity bill was just a little bit crazy, a little bit so weird. They were pretty good on the supply, that they recognised that there was no house anymore and that she couldn't possibly have used the electricity. So they got rid of that, but they weren't so great with the lack of the meter. So the meter itself, which you all would probably understand what I'm talking about, those sort of round things that sit on the side of your house, that had also been destroyed. The distributor or the electricity company had said, well, for us to actually record that meter and make the number disappear from like some national register, you need to get a level 2 electrician to come and say the meter's not there anymore. Now, given that the owner of Poles and Wires had actually been out there and replaced all of the damaged equipment, they would already have clearly been aware that there were no meters anywhere in sight. So again, a bit of correspondence with the relevant provider to say, hey, this is a little bit weird. You're asking her to spend money to confirm what's already happened, what you should already know. The amount of money that she would have had to spend on the electrician would have been quite a few $100s, because they're expensive electricians. It just seems a little bit crazy and a little bit futile and a little bit mean. That's not quite the words that I put it in, but that was pretty much what I meant. Again, fantastic, quick response. Yep, no, you're right. She doesn't need to do that. We've actually got a record already that the meter is no longer in existence. So the next issue about the fines or the licence, I mean, the drama with that, poor thing, exhausted from all the running around, all the phone calls, going to see the insurer, coming to the disaster centre, had unfortunately gotten the speeding fine, failed to pay it. With that, I was able to immediately have the licence suspension lifted with a phone call with Revenue, because we have access to what's called the advocacy hotline, which is a fantastic service. We were able to remove that suspension. It pretty much gets removed immediately, but the client still needs to probably call Roads and Maritime or Service New South Wales to make sure that it's recorded as being removed. And then I sought what's called a write-off of the fine, because she was an older woman with some disabilities and fit certain criteria. The next problem was then Brenda was like, I'm so over all of this. It's soured for me. I don't want to live here anymore. I'm going to move to Tasmania. I want to sell my house, but my certificate of title burned in the fire. Replacing that is not an overly dramatic process, but it does require a little bit of work, at least a statutory declaration and a certificate of title, new replacement requests, which we were also able to do for her. And then the final issue with the tenancy, she had argued against a rental increase, unfortunately then was met by the landlord saying, well, you know, see you later, giving her what's called a no grounds notice. When you have raised a particular argument or dispute in your tenancy, you could be able to say, well, hey, I did that and you're just giving me this notice in retaliation. The reality, I think, probably was she was in a holiday type area down the south coast, which meant they wanted the place free to be able to rent it out to holiday makers, which they can make a lot more money out of. So we were able to help her with that and get her connected with the local tenancy service as well. Brenda then one day brought me rather a large box of various nibbles and cakes and sweets that she had lovingly prepared at home. They were absolutely delicious, and we shared them all around the disaster centre in a bonding moment. So she was a happy client, but she, as she put it, you know, she shouldn't have had to go to so much trouble, but she was ultimately very glad that we were available to her. So I think that's about where it sits for me. I don't think I can say too much more about that.
Yeah, we've had quite a few people just comment different types of the version of it's very frustrating when clients self-advocate and then are treated so badly, because I think that's where a lot of them stop. They go, well, what can I do now?
Yeah, I give up. And it's not right, it's not fair. So there you go. Not right, not fair, ask.
Yep. So those were the things that obviously we were able to assist Brenda with. Marta, did you want to add anything else into the insurance about this case?
No, I think Charlene covered everything. I think the only other thing I would say is don't be afraid to go up to insurers and tell them they've made the wrong decision. They get it wrong a lot of times.
Exactly.
As Charlene has pointed out, no matter in that case study. Yeah.
That's right. And one thing I would mention is that because she'd already received all that cash payment and they considered her case closed, we were still able to go back and say, hey, even though you think it's over, it's not over. And there's some sections of the Insurance Code of Practice that say the same thing. So even if your client thinks that it's done and dusted, it may not be.
That's right. There is a provision in the General Insurance Code of Practice that assists with that. Even if your client had signed a settlement agreement, even if that happened, you can still go back to the insurer and raise questions. But yeah, I think that's the biggest message really is just don't be afraid to ask questions. If something doesn't sound right and it sounds wrong, it doesn't seem fair, then ask questions. Let the insurer explain their reasons for their decisions. And if they can't really just say, oh, it's all too much and it's all too difficult, we can't explain it, your client's entitled to that information. Tell them to explain.
That's right. At the end of the day, yeah.
If a community worker was talking to a client, sorry, Charlene, and the client themselves didn't really want to follow it up yet, they didn't feel confident enough with that advice, can the community worker call the hotline and talk to you about that problem?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, definitely give us a call. We're always happy to have a chat with you about, whether we can assist, or even if you're wanting to continue advocating for your client, we can also help you with that. So absolutely, give us a call.
That's right.
Okay, so thank you so much for that, Charlene. I think that's great. And if people do have any particular things or issues that clients have experienced, feel free to type them into the questions and we can have a quick Q&A at the end about what we would recommend that you do with those kinds of issues. So I just wanted to draw attention essentially to the fact that we're not doing this on our own, and we are not trying to pretend to either. That there's a lot of collaboration in this kind of service delivery, and up on the screen is just a whole list of lots of different legal services that have been assisting us as well. But there's a lot that aren't on that list. I mean, there's a lot of people who are in those disaster recovery centres who are so valuable to this work. So we just wanted to do a kind of shout out and say that, we want to work with everyone. So if you have an idea, and again, we're back doing outreach. So if there's anything that you want to get in touch with us, or you can see a way for us to collaborate together, then please just send us an email or give us a phone call. Now, Charlene, you put together a really great list of some of the services across New South Wales. I'm going to talk a little bit just to those.
Sure. All of these organisations are legal services that have received specific bushfire funding. There is likely to be one in your local area. So for us, we are a statewide service. The top three are also statewide services. So Financial Rights Legal Centre, who also run the Insurance Law Service, the Tenants Advice Line. So the Tenants Union of New South Wales have a specific bushfire hotline set up where they're willing to speak directly to clients or advocates for clients. And the Welfare Rights Legal Centre also have a statewide service with some money received to assist. And then you'll see the following services are specific to various local areas across New South Wales. So for us here, I'm located on the South Coast in the Nowra Office of Legal Aid. I work quite closely with the Shoal Coast Community Legal Centre, as well as the Illawarra Legal Centre and South Coast Tenant Service. So, and across the state, we try and do the same thing and work in collaboration with those partners. But there are options for you guys to also make contact with those services.
Yep. And we all, our team is not in the Sydney Central office or anything like that, and we hardly ever see each other face to face because we're all over New South Wales. So it's probably likely that one of us is in your area. So that's always good to know.
That is good to know. A lot of clients some may prefer local services. So there are the statewide services that are available, which is mentioned in that list. I'm from head office at Legal Aid, but Charlene and a number of other great colleagues that we have are all up and down the coast. So if you're looking for a local service, we've got offices, but also those local community legal centres are listed that are listed there as well.
Yeah, I'm not a lawyer, so I can't help you with that, but I'm in Kempsey, so I know all the right people in the Mid-North Coast area, so I can help in that way.
That's usually what it is. It's you know, if you know who to contact, that's really what's important and helpful out there, is to connect people. So you're just as useful, Jess.
Thank you,
Marta. That's right. And Marta, I've seen you twice this year in person. So
yes,
I'm lucky.
We've spoken many times.
That's right.
So these,
almost every day.
These lines and links to these services, as well as a whole lot more, are in that handout, the resource guide. Law, LCW just means Law for Community Workers version there, so you can print that off or email that round to your service if you think that's useful to you. I also just wanted to do a quick shout out about the publications and resources that we have available, just in case people didn't already know that they are there to be used. So we've got a whole range of publications, posters, fact sheets, and they can be ordered for free from our publications website. There's the website, which we've mentioned a few times now. We've been doing some co-branded flyers with certain areas on different services that wanted to work really closely with us to distribute in the area, so we can do that with you. There's also the disaster response law checkup tool, which will be coming, so just watch that space. And a whole lot of stakeholder resources that I'm sure everyone knows about, but I mean, Service New South Wales, Resilience New South Wales, Financial Rights, they have a whole lot of links on all of their websites to resources. And if people are just wanting more information, I mean, really just referring them to any of these places is a great start. And then we just also have a couple of podcasts about this situation, about the disasters, as well as a whole lot of other podcasts for community workers in general. We have a newsletter that goes out to community and health workers. And then just the website. I just really wanted to make sure everyone knew about that website. So there it is again. So now that's pretty much it from us. We've kind of raced through that because you guys are such great presenters now. But if anybody has any questions, I mean, now would be the time to type those in. So we'll kind of stay around for a little bit, but otherwise, if you've got everything you need, I would just say thank you for joining us and reach out in whatever way you can. Yeah.
I think maybe it means I talk too fast, Jess.
I think we might. I think I was doing that too, though.
Sorry, everybody. Maybe you can watch us again and just slow it down a bit.
Yeah. Did we want to add anything else in that you guys don't think we covered?
Oh, there's probably lots we can talk about, but
yeah.
Hopefully people have some questions that we can answer.
I'm just getting a lot of people saying that it was great work. That was lovely.
Oh,
thank you so much, everyone.
Wonderful.
Fantastic, great.
Comments are great.
There are, as I said, this will go up onto the YouTube channel that we have, and there's a whole lot of other recorded webinars up there about a whole range of legal issues. So this is just a little taster of what our service can provide. But if you want to know more information about fines or elder abuse or family law, young people problems, there's a whole lot of webinars up there on those specific topics that you can just kind of skip through to the information that you need.
There is actually one thing I can add if people are still on the line, and I was going to mention this before when I think I got distracted, but I think one of the things that's really important for people to understand, especially I think community workers, is that when you're dealing with insurance, it's the person is a consumer and they have a contract with their insurance company, and the terms are that they are paying for that contract. The terms are in the policy statement. And in that statement, that is what they owe to a person. There's a lot of other layers of information that also count, but the policy disclosure statement is the #1 document that sets out that person's, what they've paid for and what they deserve to receive. So if there's something in there and you have a company that's saying, like they said to Brenda, oh, it's too hard, that is just not good enough and it's a breach of the contract. So ultimately, you know, that might sound very legalistic, but it is at the heart of it. It is a contract, and our clients deserve to have their contract honoured because it's what they've been paying for.
That's great. And we do have, I mean, that 1-800 number that's up there, it's not a call center like a lot of numbers can sometimes seem to people. It goes directly to Law Access and then straight to our team. So the chances are that if you are calling that number, you will end up speaking to someone straight away. You won't be sitting on hold for a long time. So that's often a lot of people. Yeah. Have you been answering that today, Marta? No.
Not today.
Okay, well, I think that's probably it from us. So thank you so much, Marta and Charlene, for joining me, and for everyone to listening in. And yeah.
Thanks, everyone. Keep up the good fight.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.